Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. This is the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Joining me on the show today is the former Ireland U21, Manchester City and Celtic midfielder Willo Flood. Willo, welcome to the show.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Right, Willo, as always, we go right back to the start. You grew up in Bali United. Who did you support growing up?
I was a massive Liverpool fan. Anyone from that's into football in Dublin, you always have Celtic as your team and you always have your English team. And I was a massive Liverpool fan growing up, and it's good to see Liverpool on the right track now. The last few years, they've been unbelievable to watch, that's for sure.
You're playing for Cherry Orchard. I played underage football in Kildare, and Home Farm and Cherry Orchard in Dublin were the teams that, if lads were playing there, I knew Home Farm had a connection with Everton, but the good chance of making it and going across the water to England. When you were playing for Cherry Orchard, did you have an idea that you might make a career out of football?
No, I was at Cherry Orchard for when I was 7. I played 7-a-side, and then we actually played 11-a-side at that age, and I just loved it, and I played it all the time and enjoyed it, and I never really got serious until about, I think I was 12 when I went on my first trial to Everton. I went over, me and a lad called Stephen Foley from Hartstown. Two of us went over and played for Everton. We went over on the Saturday, played for them on the Sunday, and came back Sunday night. And then it became a little bit serious. And then after that, I was only home about a week or two when Man City asked me to come across, and then Cherry Orchard sent me a letter, and there was about 15 clubs that asked me to go over and stuff like that. So I eventually went to a few, and I had a few offers at the time, and I just thought the best chance of me having a career, I thought, was Man City at the time. And I never once went over to Man City with the intention that I was coming back home. It would never cross my mind. I was going over to be a footballer, and that's it. And
who were the other clubs that were in for you?
I had offers from a lot of big clubs. I had offers from Celtic, Liverpool, Man U, Arsenal at the time, Liam Brady, Aston Villa, Wolves. So I had a fair pick. The day that I signed for Man City flew over, and it was strange. It was like as if word got around that I was signing for Man City, because Man U rang me mad and dad that day, and Celtic rang me mum and dad that day, and Liverpool rang me mum, all on the same day that I was meeting Man City. So Man City was the right club for me. I was surrounded by good people, good coaches, and the Irish people, we all helped each other out for sure at that club.
Yeah, you signed for Kevin Keegan to Man City in 2002. It must have helped having the likes of Richard Dunn and Glenn Whelan around, yeah?
Yeah, we were, me and Willo lived together. We had me, Willo, Paddy McCarthy, Stephen Elliott, Stevie Ireland, Brian Murphy. And obviously there was other Irish lads there that didn't quite have the careers that we had, but I think we all definitely helped each other on, and I think that it was a big thing for us all, to have good careers, because I think over the first 4 or 5 years we definitely helped each other, that's for sure.
What was Kevin Keegan like as a coach?
He just loved football. He was enthusiastic. I always remember on a Saturday morning we played 17s and 19s, and Kevin Keegan and his assistant at the time, Arthur Cox, were there every Saturday morning for our home games. So they'd watch us at 11 o'clock, and then they'd go over to the first team games after half time, and he'd always come in at half time and he'd say his piece. He'd have one or two things to say, and as a kid, when you have a manager, your first team manager there, it gives you a massive boost, and you want to do well, don't you? You want to go and impress.
This is a bit of a mad story, Willo, but when you were 19 in Manchester playing for Man City, some nutjob came in and robbed your house. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I just, I'd got a new contract at the time, and I just thought it was the right thing to do to go and buy a house. I remember me and my mate Paddy McCarthy, he was looking to buy a house as well, and I seen a house and I thought I liked the area, and I didn't really do enough homework on it, if I'm being honest, because it was too close to a rough enough area and stuff, and I was only in the house about a week, I'd say, my first house, and a boy came in and got held at knife point.
Did he bring a knife in with him?
I said that to someone. I think he actually went into my kitchen, and
Jesus.
That's how stupid he was, and But it's one of them things. He was on drugs, and you know what they're like. If I actually feel sorry for them in the long run because it's not even their fault. They're like possessed. He just came in and he came into the sitting room and he just said, "I want that telly off the wall," and like I got the telly off for him, and he had the knife to the back of me when I was walking out of the house and stuff like that. And he actually recognised me, and he was a Man City fan, and he actually said to me while he was robbing me that this is nothing personal and all and stuff like that. So it felt personal to me, that's for sure.
He recognised you as a Manchester City player?
Yeah.
Jesus. And then he just left with the TV?
He went off with the telly and the car at the time, yeah. And he got caught within 2 or 3 days. But you know what, I look at things back then and people say that I get real support from the club, and I didn't really. If I'm being honest, I just got on with it. I got more support from my family, friends, and my own girlfriend at the time than I did from the club, that's for sure.
That must have been tough for a 19-year-old over in Manchester to be robbed at knife point in your own house. Even though you grew up in Dublin, surely that must have fazed you.
No, listen, it fazed me a little bit in the fact that when I was out injured at the time, so I went back home for about 2-3 weeks, and I came back and I didn't go back and live in the house. I went back to digs, to be fair, for about a month or two. I went back to my digs lady for a month or two, and then I eventually got back into the house and stuff. But it was a strange one because, you know, for the first couple of years when someone knocks at the door and all, you're a bit on edge if you're in the house on your own and stuff. Over time, you heal, don't you? And it makes it a lot easier, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd say when it was raw, it was kind of in the back of your head, but thankfully the guards got your man. And what was the name of the area, Willo, in Manchester?
I lived in a place called Sharsden. I'm sure the fella that robbed the house was in a place called Widenshaw, which wasn't that far from the area, I don't think. I look back and I think to myself, you know what, a young footballer, I probably should have moved in a more secure apartment. I was living on my own in anyway, so I probably should have went into an apartment in a more secure area.
You signed for Cardiff, Willo, in 2006, scored the winner at Ellen Road against Leeds. There was a few Irish there too. David Ford, who we had on the show, great lad. Stephen McPhail. What was Cardiff like?
Cardiff, as a career move, was frustrating, if I'm being honest. I left Man City and I was probably losing my way a little bit in the game, and I didn't, I always say to kids, I never played enough football from 19 to 21. I played a good bit at the start when I first broke in, and then had a couple of loans and stuff like that, and they didn't really work out for me, and it was actually make or break time, at Cardiff. And I went in and I scored the goal against Leeds. I played in an FA Cup game against Spurs and done quite well in the first. We got to a replay, and then I didn't play that well in the replay, and I felt as if it was one of them where if I didn't play well, I was never going to get a run at it. And then I was actually at Cardiff at the time, and Johnny McDonald rang me I think St. Pat's were throwing a bit of cash at it back home in Ireland at that time. It might have been when Brian Kerr and Gala Kelleher had just walked into St. Pat's. And you know what? I didn't even get to the stage of what was the contract. At that time, it never really interested me. So I spoke to my agent at the time, and I just said, listen, I just want to go somewhere and play week in, week out and see what level I can get to. So then after being at Cardiff, I could have went to Swindon and a couple of others, but I spoke to Craig Levine on the phone, and I just got a good feel for him.
What did you think of the city of Cardiff?
Good people, nice place. I lived near Cardiff Bay for a bit. Nice place to live. Good club. Fans are fanatics. If the team's doing well, they definitely support you 100%. I enjoyed living there. The living there wasn't the problem. It was just my job was to play football games, and I just didn't play enough football. So me as a person, when I didn't play enough football, I always went elsewhere.
I was in that stadium actually for Ireland Wales. McLean got the winner 1-0. And we had a segment on the show, Willo, called Away Day Confessions, where we asked the Irish fans what was their favourite away and least favourite away. And it was 50% for the least favourite between Gelsenkirchen in Germany and Cardiff. Nobody liked Cardiff, yeah. Yeah, I remember it was just kind of grey buildings, and the weather wasn't good, but we got the win, which was important. Of course, then lost to Denmark in the playoffs. Then you spent 2 years on loan at Dundee United.
I was 18 months, yeah.
18 months, right. And where you scored the goal of the season.
It was one of them. I went to Dundee United, and when I went there at the time, I wasn't really used to playing football week in, week out at that age. So I went to Dundee United, played the first month or two. I just had my kid at the time, so I came back 2 weeks late for pre-season. The manager was unbelievable with me, and I just had a respect for him straight away. And after about a month or two of me playing week in, week out, then I started to come good for him, and I felt good about myself, and I felt good about my surroundings at the time.
And then in 2009, you signed for Celtic. It didn't really work out there with Tony Mowbray. What happened there?
It was basically just Gordon Strachan signed me at the time, and he signed me in January. I played quite well against Celtic a few times, done quite well against Rangers in a few games for Dundee United. And it was one of them where Strachan said, listen, you won't play as much this season, but you will get some game time. Don't worry, and next season it'll be a big season for you. And I played the Old Firm game, my debut in the Old Firm game. I'd done okay. We drew 0-0. Scott McDonald missed a header. And I was kind of in and out a little bit. I had a calf injury, and I was out for a couple of weeks, and I came back for a game against Hearts away, and I was poor in the game. But it was one of them, you were still finding your way a little bit, and then Strachan had left, and then Tony Mowbray had come in. So Tony Mowbray took us to Australia. I actually thought I played quite well in the game over there. And as a player, you can tell if a manager's having you or not. And he just didn't fancy me. It's just, that's football. And then I had agreed to go back to Dundee United on loan. But then I came on against Arsenal in the Champions League qualifier and done quite well. And then the next day, he just pulled me in and said that he wasn't letting me go anywhere. So then I had to stay for another 6 months.
He said he wasn't letting you go anywhere?
Yeah, he said that he wasn't letting me go on loan after him telling me a few weeks before that I could. But he obviously, I done okay when I came on against Arsenal in the Champions League qualifier, and he just obviously wanted me around the place still as a squad player, and I never really played. And then Strachan had rang me in December and said he'd like to take me to Middlesbrough, and I couldn't get down there quick enough.
That must have been a bit of a head wreck though, Willo. I mean, like, you want to play football. That's why you went to Cardiff, you know what I mean? You're at Celtic. You want to play football. You know, if I can't play, let me go. He's saying, right, you're not going to play, but I'm not letting you go.
That's what I'm saying. Like, at the end of the day, it's up to the club whether you stay or whether you go. Like, I mean, and I know people have to hump with some players leaving on Bosmans and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, you can work in the club's favour at times as well. You're under contract, and they say you need to stay, you need to stay. Like.
Yeah, I don't think he did too well at Celtic though, did he, Mowbray?
No, I didn't think he got his recruitment right. And to be fair, I think he when he came up, I think he regrets leaving England for Scottish football. Like, you know, I think he probably would have rather stay in England. The Celtic job is massive, you know, the scrutiny that comes with it. The Celtic, you know, the press is on you every single day. And that's my worry on a bit of whoever Celtic bring in as next manager. I don't think they realise that the scrutiny that you're going to be under as an Old Firm manager is nuts.
Yeah, do you reckon, you know, it benefited Brendan Rodgers having been at Liverpool before for that reason? Big club, you know, media scrutiny, fans in your face every day.
He knew everything about Celtic. He grew up a Celtic fan, so he knew every single thing that comes with the Celtic job. Like Stephen Gerrard's been fine at Rangers. He was an unbelievable player, so he was scrutinised every single minute of every day. So that was nothing to him. I just think they need to make sure they get the right appointment, because this year they've been nowhere near Rangers, that's for sure.
Do you think Eddie Howe will get the job?
And they're looking like that. Like, they're obviously thinking the Brendan Rodgers type manager is he wants to play the right way. He plays nice attacking, passing football, and I think Eddie Howe will be in for a shock if he takes a Celtic job. Like, because I don't think he realises the magnitude of it.
It's a lot bigger club than Bournemouth. That's for sure.
Like, no disrespect to Bournemouth, but I'm sure Bournemouth is like local press and one or two reporters that he probably had a good relationship with, but if he comes to Celtic and he doesn't start well, or he has one or two bad results, then the vultures are out, that's for sure. It's
going to have to be a big personality to get Celtic back again, I think. You had a season at Middlesbrough under Strachan before heading back to Dundee United for a third time in 2011. What made Dundee United so special?
Like, Middlesbrough started well. I played the first 7 games, I think it was, and then I'd done my posterior cruciate. So then I came back the following pre-season, And Strachan just said, listen, get yourself back fit and you'll be fine. And then the first game of the season, then I dislocated me patella.
Oh, Jesus.
Then I was out so all in all, I was out for 1 year over the year and a half that I was there. And then in the meantime, when I was coming back from my knee injury, then Tony Mowbray came in. So it was good. Nice, see you later.
Oh, God. Tony Mowbray again, huh?
People say, are you quite bitter towards Tony Mowbray? I'm not bitter whatsoever. Like, he's a good manager. I just wasn't his type of player. And you just move on. Football is about opinions, and that's what it is. You just get on with it. And then I went back to Dundee United because I felt I wanted to go back home where I felt loved and, where I knew the family would settle again. And I just wanted to go and play football week in, week out. It was my old assistant manager that assigned me. And to be fair, the first season that I went back, it went well for the team, but it didn't go that well for me personally. I just done okay towards the end of the season, but I always think when you're a footballer and you've been out a long time with 2 knee injuries, it takes you a bit of time to get back to where you want to get to. And then it was only really the second season that I got firing again and I felt good physically and mentally.
Next stop was Aberdeen in 2013, where you went on to win the Scottish League Cup. Would you say you played your best football at Pittodrie?
Now, the 3 years at Aberdeen I played, my best season there was definitely the first year, and then I had a few injuries, and then second year was okay, and third year, even though I played 25 games, I didn't feel as if I contributed as much as I wanted to. It was hard because my first spell at Dundee United, my second spell at Dundee United was as good as that Aberdeen first year, that's for sure. The Aberdeen manager that I played for is probably the closest relationship I've had with a manager.
McKinney's, was it?
Derek McInnes, yeah. Just a genuine good fella, good on the training pitch, had a good way about him, was honest with his players. And I think as a player, all you want from a manager is honesty. But it's very hard to get in this game sometimes.
How difficult was it understanding the people in Aberdeen? I know a lad from Aberdeen, and I know people from Glasgow. That's tough. But the Aberdeen accent, it might be called Durdig or something. I couldn't understand the word.
Yeah.
Chuchters, like Culchies, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Barry, one of my good mates is Barry Robson, and I played with him at Dundee United, Celtic, Middlesbrough, and Aberdeen. So if you can understand him, you can understand anyone. You're probably saying that about me.
I was just going to say you haven't lost your accent at all, Willo. Right, so 2016, you were back at Dundee United, which lasted about 2 years.
Yeah.
But in 2018, you were announced as a Bali United player. Now, that's Bali in Indonesia, not Bali Ferme. What's the story with that?
Yeah, it was a strange one because I had signed for Dunfermline and I was only there about a week. See, while I was playing at Dundee United the last 2 years, I was coaching in the academy and stuff. So I was helping out the under 16s and 17s. And then my idea was to go and play at Dunfermline and still coach in the academy. But then I had a phone call from a Dutch lad that I played with, Nick van der Velden, and he said, well, I'd put you into Arizona and they really like you. Would you fancy? And I said, yeah, listen, it was something totally different. The money was good, the nice place to live, and something totally different where you can go and enjoy your football and people actually appreciate you, the effort you give, whereas sometimes in Scotland they're a bit nuts, It was just totally different, and I went over there, signed the contract, got announced, and then they said that the rules had changed within the league and they didn't know about the rules and stuff like that. Basically, you had to come from the Scottish Premier League to sign in the Indonesian league, and they didn't know the rules at the time. So
that all sounds a bit bonkers, but it would have been a really cool place to play football.
Oh yeah. Like I trained with them a couple of times. I went to a game. The fans were unbelievable. Like no matter what the result was, they cheer you on, and at the end of the game, they wait around, and it's just something totally different than what you're used to. Whether it be English football, British football, Irish football, European football, if you lose a game, people want to kill you. But over there, they appreciate that you put your effort in, and if you win, you win. Great. If you don't, you don't.
Ireland, Willo. Now, I remember I'm a massive Ireland fan. I've been going to games most of my life, and, you know, tournaments and season tickets and flying back and the Euros and the whole lot. I do remember when you emerged first, there was a lot of hype in the Irish media about you. And Don Givens said you could have been a future Irish captain. About the under-21s then, I think. Why do you think it didn't work out, and why do you think you didn't get a cap?
I think the Ireland team that I was trying to get into was a lot better than what the Irish team is now, that's for sure.
100%, sorry, 100%.
I think we had some top players. We had Robbie Keane, Shay Given, Damien Duff, Richard Dunn. We had some quality, didn't we? Whereas, no disrespect to the lads now, I don't think we're anywhere near that level. So that was one thing. Another thing was, I don't think I played enough football from 19 to 21. I probably stayed at Man City too long. I probably should have left earlier. And I think it was one of them where I was a young lad playing in the Premier League at the time, and Aidan McGeady had broke in, and Brian Kerr just chose to bring McGeady in and stuff like that, you know. It was one of them. I think I deserved one cap, if I'm being honest, but I was trying to get into a good team, and I just didn't quite make it. And I was on standby twice, and I never quite made the squad.
That's a shame. I'm sure you're like myself. I'm sure you're a big Ireland fan, though, Willo. What's your opinion on the current setup with Stephen Kenny? I thought we played fantastic against Slovakia in the semi-final of the playoffs and lost on penalties, which would have put us in the final against Northern Ireland and a chance to go to the Euros. You know, the Serbia game, we lost 3-2 away. Performed okay. We're playing nice football, passing the ball well, but we're not winning games. Would you stick with Stephen Kenny, or what would you do?
Me personally, I would just be patient. You know, I think we've got a good crop of young talent coming through, and the Nathan Collins, the Adam Iders, the Connollys of this world. So I just think we need to be patient, and it might not happen overnight in the next 1 or 2 years, but I'm sure over the next 3 or 4 years, then I'm sure we'll see the good young talent that we have coming through breaking into Stephen Kenny. Like, I think we need more established Premier League footballers to kick our country on. But I think for me, the route is deeper than that. I speak to people all the time about comparing Scottish and Irish football, and the big thing for me is over in Scotland, the best young talent in the country go to a thing called performance schools. So from 12-year-old in different areas of Scotland, we have talent over here that go in full-time school, but they play football in the morning and they train in the evening. That's 5-6 times a week. Plus they play their games as well on the weekend. Whereas over in Ireland, the lads train 3 times a week, which is just in the evening, and then they play a game at the weekend. We don't give them enough contact hours. And the problem is that kids nowadays don't play enough street football. In my day, it was fine because we didn't need to get coached because we played football all the time. Nowadays, we need to find a way to get performance skills back and get into Ireland with performance skills. Until we get that into Ireland, we're going to keep falling behind. I went to Ireland on the 16s game last year, or the year before last, a Victory Shield, and Scotland, I'm sure Scotland beat Ireland 5 or 6-1, but it actually could have been 10. And I'm thinking, that's poor on our country, because when I was growing up, we were better than Scotland at younger age level. That was a fact. But I think the problem is the smaller nations are catching up on us. If not, they're getting better than us. So we need to find a way. Do we bring like a Pat Fenlon or a Brian Kerr back into the FAI to say how we bring young players through? And I think we need to start doing it ASAP. And I know we have a lad, Real Doctor, in the FAI at the moment. No disrespect to Real Doctor, but Real Doctor is from a Dutch background, and he doesn't know what it is to produce young Irish footballers. So I think we need to get some of our own back into the FAI, like a Pat Fenlon or a Brian Kerr, and the sooner the better we get performance skills in, the better, you know.
Yeah, Brian Kerr would be my choice, Willo. You know, I think he'd be perfect for the job.
Like, I'm from a Cherry Orchard background, so I was brought up with Cherry Orchard. We trained a few times a week, but they brought in this new thing, the League of Ireland League, and it's like 13s, 15s and 17s, but they're training the exact same amount of time as they were with a Cherry Orchard or a Belvedere or a Home Farm. So plus they have to travel the length of the country to play games. So for me, I don't see what good is that doing for Irish football. I've seen the quality of it. It's bang average. Like, I watched St. Pat's under 15s one year. They played against Waterford and they beat them 8-0. that ain't good for no one. It ain't good for anyone at Waterford, or it ain't good for anyone at St. Pat's. So they talk about this elite academies that they're trying to produce, but until we get full-time academy football in Ireland, we're going to be falling behind people, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're right in what you're saying, though, Willow, as well, about the smaller nations catching up. They certainly are, and they're here now. And we're losing to Luxembourg, and, we've kind of fallen asleep where the rest of the world football has, it seems like they've evolved. And we're stuck in this kind of rut now, I mean, you're always up against Gaelic football in Ireland, but now rugby's huge in Ireland. So a lot of young lads are going playing rugby as well. So the player pool is already small enough. Willow, who's the best player you've played with and the best you've played against?
The best I've played with is probably Nicholas Anelka, Man City. I know he had a good career, but he could have been even better than he was. He was unbelievable in the training pitch. He could score goals from anywhere. He was a good lad. He was good with the young players. The best I played against, it'd have to be, like, Roy Keane for me was my hero. So I played in the Manchester Derby. So that was the one that I'd always say that was the one player for me. I did play against the two big boys and Messi and Ronaldo, but I'll always say Roy Keane because he's the biggest legend in Irish football, and everything he's done for our country has been unbelievable over the years.
What was it like? You were playing in midfield. Did he give you a clatter? Or
yeah, he smashed me early doors in the game. Yeah, the ball broke and I got a little nick on it, and he smashed me, and he got. I'm not sure if he got booked or anything, but I got his jersey after the game, and I asked him for the jersey at the end of the game, and he said he'd see me in the tunnel. And he wasn't in the tunnel, and I thought, he's obviously patched me off here. But he then sent the kit man in or something like that from Man U, and the kit man gave it to me personally. So, that's just a little thing that he done, but, something that I've always appreciated. And, yeah, the man was a Man United legend, wasn't he, and an Ireland legend, that's for sure.
Top three players of all time. I know he's got this kind of persona where he plays the hard man, and you see him on television, but I was talking to... I had a chat with Mark Bosnich recently, and he said he's got a softer side. And if you ever need anything, he's round your house straight away. He's got a good side to him as well. You're a football agent now. What's that like?
If I'm being honest, all I do is try to advise young lads, and I just advise them the career paths that I think is the right thing for them to do. And the big thing for me is don't chase the money and go and play first-team football. I've been lucky that a few of the kids that you have now have played a bit of first-team football. Like, I've got a young kid at Dundee United, Kerr Smith, who's played a bit in the first team at 16. A kid, Calvin Ramsey, at Aberdeen at 17. Another kid at St Mirren, Dylan Reid, who's debuted at 16. And then I've got another kid, Kai Foderingham, who debuted at 17, and he's went out on loan. He's just turned 18. So Scotland is a good career path for them, because I think if they're good enough, they'll play at a young age. And then eventually they will go to England. Like, for me, I see like young 16-year-olds going to places like Bayern Munich and stuff, and I always think to myself, like, it was hard enough for me at 15 to go and settle in a country that was, I lived with Irish lads and stuff, but I think you've got to go over there, learn a language, and I'm not sure I'd be in a rush to advise people to do that at a young age. I think go and earn your stripes, or go and play men's football, and then after that, then the money will come.
When did you decide to become an agent?
Like, I done my coaching badges and stuff like that, and I was either one of them. When I finished playing, I always wanted to either go into the whether it be coaching, recruitment department or agency. I always wanted to stay within the game. And when I came back from Bali, and I turned down a coaching job at Dundee United before I went there, and then there was no full-time coaching job to do. So you're thinking, right, what do I need to do? I need to stay active. And I had a chat with a few people that I know within the game, and they said, well, you would be good at that. Like, you're honest with people, and you've already been there, you've done that, and you've wore a T-shirt, so you'd be a good sounding block for parents or players. And the big thing for me and what I'm doing now is, see, when the players are playing well, they don't really need you because they look after themselves. But see, when they're going through a hard time, or they're struggling with injury, or struggling with a loss of form, that's when they more call you more, and that's when you need to be there for them, and you need to give them the right advice. It
doesn't seem to be a common career path for ex-footballers to go into, to become agents. And a lot of agents, the persona comes across as sleazy. But you've obviously been there, wore the T-shirt, you know exactly what they're going through. So That's got to be, it's got to be refreshing for parents when, you know, their kid is going with someone that's not in the interest of just money for their own personal gain. I've been there. Look, I know what it's like.
Yeah, like I want to advise them, and I want to, like the kid Kerr Smith, like before he was 16, he had half of England chasing him, and if it's 99% of agents, he's turning down a pro contract at Dundee United and he's going down to England. But the kid wanted to stay. He's debuted. And listen, if Dundee United want to sell him in a year or 2 years down the line, then he might have to go then because they might need the money or whatever it may be, and it might be a good contract for him. But he done the right thing because he's played football at 16, and the one thing you can't do is you can do everything you can, but once you play first team football, that's when you learn the game, and that's when you grow up and you become a man, and you know it's good for his profile as well.
Would you ever see yourself coaching back home in Ireland?
Only if it was something full time and stuff like that. Like there's good people within the FAI. Like I speak to Alan Reynolds, who's 21's assistant, and he's a really good coach and he loves football. And Jim Crawford's done a good job, and you people like Collie O'Brien in the FAI. There's good people in there, but I just wish that if they had performance skills and they brought one or two ex-players, like we've an Irish legend like in Damien Duff, who's the most enthusiastic coach ever, really good, and he's coaching Shelbourne's 17s, I think it is. Like, why not call him in and restructure the whole programme to get players at 12, 13 and get them into a proper skill and a proper coaching? I'm sure they'll become footballers. If you can't learn off Damien Duff, you'll never learn off anyone.
Very true. Very true. Right, Willo. Listen, you've had a fantastic career and thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more of our podcasts, please click on the red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. Thank you.